welcome to Mozart's Eine Kleine Nachtmusik, Section A of the trio analysis. What you'll need before starting is a blank score of this section for you to write up any notes. 8 different colours ideally, so when you're making the notes for the different elements we're going to be looking at, as well as it looking lovely and colourful, it's going to help you when you're revising. So you know if you have a yellow and it is for melody, you're looking at the aspects of melody. That's going to really help your revision. And a blank piece of paper to answer any questions that will crop up through this little analysis video. Why do we analyse? Well, it's to understand how Mozart composed the music. It's to understand how he used the elements in his piece of music, so melody, articulation, dynamics, structure, texture, harmony, instruments, rhythm and tempo. Hopefully we'll understand how he used these, which in turn will help you with your composition. So it's going to help you to understand what you can also do to make your composition even better. We're going to be looking at section A of the trio, which is 8 bars long. We're going to start off looking at dynamics, articulation and texture. Dynamics means volume, articulation means how a note is played, and texture is the layers of sound. To start off with, the dynamic of section A is piano, which we can see there in violin 2, viola and cello. However, we've also got a new word. In violin 1, which is the top line here, we've got the word sotto voce. Sotto voce means to play very quiet, almost like a whisper. Now that's going to be really important when we look at texture in a few minutes' time of why he's done that. But we can see that this section A of the trio, is going to be a very quiet section. He keeps the dynamic piano or sotto voce for the whole of the 8 bars. In terms of articulation, so I'm now using green for articulation, there's a mixture. So from bars 17 to 24, in violin 1, 2 and the viola, he's using legato, which looks like that. This means to play smooth. So when you're playing it, you should be playing it as smoothly as possible. Whereas the cello, from bars 17 to 24, is using staccato articulation, which is there, the little dot below or above the note. Staccato means to detach, to make it very detached and with almost a little gap in between the notes. In terms of texture, section A of the trio uses a melody and accompaniment texture. The melody is played in violin 1, whereas the accompaniment, the backing instruments, playing in the background, the support in the melody, is played in violin 2, viola and cello. Now what is really interesting here is the melody is played really quiet, almost a whisper, and the accompaniment is quiet. So Mozart has really separated that. We now know it's a melody and accompaniment because violin 1 is the only instrument playing the melody. The accompaniment are in the background. The melody is even quieter and the accompaniment is quiet. So it's really making it really apparent. It's really making it obvious that the melody is now very different from the accompaniment. It would be a really good idea to pause the video to make any notes on your score if you've not already done so. Let's have a quick recap. So using that blank piece of paper, what I want you to do is work out which of these statements are true and which are false. Don't forget to correct them if they are false. Pause the video now. Here are the answers. Hopefully you worked out that the texture is melody accompaniment. That was true. You probably worked out that the dynamic in violin 1 is forte. you've probably worked out that that is false. It is actually sotto voce, which means it is a whisper. The dynamic of this section is piano, and that was true. And all instruments are playing staccato articulation. Hopefully work that was false. Violin 1, violin 2 and viola are playing legato. It's only the cello that is staccato and detached. Let's move on. So we're still on section A of the trio, and we're now looking at melody and rhythm. I would recommend that you use different colours. I'm just using yellow and blue because they're the only colours that I've really got. So, in terms of the melody, it begins with an anacrusis. It begins with an upbeat. But this time it's only in violin 1, and he's using quavers. Remember, the melody, we worked out that it's melody and accompaniment texture, and violin 1 is the only instrument playing the melody. So that is really significant, that is the only instrument playing the anacrusis. The melody is ascending and very high in pitch, and is also conjunct. So we can see here that it's constantly going higher. It's very high in pitch because we have the added ledger lines, these added lines here. They're telling us that it's very high, and it's very high on the stave, on the 5 lines. And also the melody is conjunct. The notes move in step with each other. The melody is also chromatically altered. From past videos, we know chromatically altered melodies have added accidentals, such as these added sharps and naturals. And a chromatically altered melody was used quite a lot in the classical period to make something sound a bit more interesting. There is a sequence in bar 21 and 22, which is there. This sequence is a copy of bar 19. So this little bar here, he has copied it, he moves it down, and then he moves it down again. So it's the same shape, but just moved down. And that little sequence has been used. In terms of rhythm, he now uses a lot more dotted rhythms, which can be seen here in violin 1. A dotted rhythm is brand new so far. He's not used it before. And a dotted rhythm has the dot at the side. It's not to be confused with staccato. Staccato have the dot below or above. A dotted rhythm has the dot at the side. And it means that you just add a bit extra length onto the rhythm. So a dotted crotchet is 1.5 beats. So this is something that's really interesting, is making the rhythms, they're not as regular no more, they're a bit more irregular. He's also using a supportive quaver accompaniment. So if you remember, we have our melody in violin 1, but the accompaniment is violin 2, viola and cello. We would describe this quaver rhythm there as a supportive quaver rhythm. It can also be described as broken chords or even a rocking rhythm. And that's something that is quite repetitive, and it just pushes the music on, giving it a bit of motion. Something to consider about melody, or an aspect of melody, is the octave leap in the cello. So you can see here that although he's playing D, 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 A, 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 he's actually going low to high. Bum, 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 bum. Now that octave leap, again, is something that's really interesting to note. It is a good point here to pause the video to make any notes and any definitions that you need to make. Right, we're going to have a quick quiz and a bit of a recap. All of these statements are incorrect. What I want you to do, what I want you to do is to correct the mistakes. You can use your score, but if you want a challenge, try to not use your score. Pause the video and write on your blank piece of paper. Here are the answers. So you could have said the melody is chromatically altered. There is a quaver and a crucis that's only played in violin 1. There is a sequence that's used in bar 21 and 22. The rhythm is mainly a quaver accompaniment in violin 2 and the viola. The dynamic is piano and sottovoce. And the articulation uses a mixture of both. Legato in violin 1, 2 and the viola, and staccato in the cello. How did you get on? Hopefully you got them all correct. If there's any that's incorrect, just go back over the video just to recap and to hopefully help your retrieval. Right, we're now trio section A, but we're going to be looking at harmony and tonality. Harmony is the chords and tonality is the key. Now, the key signature at the moment is D major. We can tell this because at the very beginning we have 2 sharps rather than 1. In the minuet we only had 1 sharp. Now we have 2 sharps in the key signature. That is D major. D major is related, so it does link to the minuet because this is called the dominant key. So D major is the dominant key. So just think D dominant trio. There are some key chords that we need to note. In bar 17 and bar 18, he uses chord 1. In this case, D, a DFA chord. DFA, DFA. In bar 19 and 20, he uses a 5-7 chord. In other words, a dominant 7th chord. In this case, an A chord with an added 7th, so A, C sharp, E and G. Now what is really interesting to note, in bars 17 to 20, the harmonic rhythm, or the speed of the chords, is very slow. Because basically he's only got 1 chord every 2 bars. So you have D, bars 17 and 18, a D chord. And then we change to 8 on bar 19 and 20. We change to a dominant 7th chord, a 5-7 chord. So the harmonic rhythm, the speed of the chords, is very slow. As we carry on, in bar 21 and 22, we go back to a D chord. And then in bar 22 we go to a 6 chord, which is minor, the B chord. If we're looking at the harmonic rhythm here, so the speed in bar 21 and 22 of the chords, so remember harmonic rhythm, speed of the chords, it's still slow because he is only using 1 chord per bar. But it's not very slow like bar 17 to 20. 23 to 24, we now see a lot more chords. So in bar 23, beat 1, we have a 2B chord. So this means chord 2 is an E chord, but first inversion, which means we put the G in the bass. In bar 23, beat 2, we have an E chord again, so it's minor, but now the E is in the bass, so we call this root position. Followed by a 5-7, so a dominant 7th, and a chord 1, a D chord. So in bars 23 to 24, the harmonic rhythm becomes a bit quicker because he's using more chords very quickly after each other. So he's using 3 chords in bar 23. What's also really important to note here is it ends on a perfect cadence. So it ends on a 5-7 chord, or a dominant 7th followed by chord 1. That produces a perfect cadence that makes it sound finished, which is just there. 5-7 followed by 1. That perfect cadence makes it sound finished. It is a really good opportunity now to pause the video to make any notes and to review everything that you've learnt about harmony and tonality. What can you remember? What I want you to do now is to write down as much as possible for section A of the trio on a separate piece of paper. Try not to look at the score. Focus on melody, dynamics, texture, harmony, instruments and rhythm, seeing what you can remember. And if possible, try to include bar numbers. Once you've finished, get your score and see if you were correct. Pause the video. Right, we're going to have a quick quiz. We're going to see what you can remember using a GCSE question. So, we have section A of the minuet and we have section A of the trio. You're going to write down 5 differences between section A of the minuet and section A of the trio. Use the music that's here to help you out. Pause the video and write down 5 differences. Here are the answers. You could have said that in section A there's a diatonic melody, whereas in section B the melody is chromatic. We could have said that there's an octave texture and a homophonic texture in section A, whereas in section B it is a melody and accompaniment texture. In section A of the minuet, he uses ornamentation, so he's using trills and appoggiatura, whereas in section B there are no ornaments. The articulation is mainly legato, whereas in section A of the trio, he's actually using more staccato, a mixture of both. The dynamic is forte, whereas in section A of the trio, it is piano and sottovoce. The rhythm is mainly crotchet, quaver and minims, whereas in section A of the trio he's using more quaver rhythms and also dotted rhythms. At the beginning there is a crotchet and a crucis. This is played in violin 1 and 2 in section A of the minuet, whereas in section A of the trio it's a quaver and a crucis, which is just played in violin 1. How did you get on? See, mark it, and if you got anything wrong, correct it, review the video and see how much you've learned. Congratulations, you have completed section A of the trio. Remember, it's all about repetition. Now you should have a lovely score, which is colourful, but that colour is of really importance. That colour is going to help you when you're revising, so you can pick out all the features that you have analysed. Well done, and I will see you in the final video of section B, trio. See you soon.